Picture this. It's Christmas Eve, and the town is enveloped in an eerie silence. The snow falls gently, blanketing the streets in a pristine white, but there is no sound of carolers, no laughter, no chatter. The town square, usually bustling with festive cheer, stands deserted and still. No one can make a sound. It's as if the very essence of noise has been stolen from the air. People open their mouths to speak, to sing, to shout, but nothing emerges. The silence is deafening. A void that swallows every attempt at communication. It was a Christmas Eve like no other in the little town of Pinehurst. The streets were adorned with twinkling lights and festive decorations, but the usual sounds of celebration were conspicuously absent. The silence hung heavy, an invisible shroud over the town. As dawn broke, the townsfolk stirred from their slumber, only to find an eerie silence blanketing their homes. The usual morning sounds, the chirping of birds, the hum of household activity, were missing. It was as if the world had been muted overnight. No one could speak, not a single sound could be heard. The confusion was palpable. As people tried to understand what had happened, they gestured wildly, their faces contorted in silent frustration, but their voices remained trapped within. Panic and confusion spread quickly. The townsfolk, unable to communicate, resorted to frantic gestures and written notes. Fear gripped their hearts as they realized the gravity of their situation. The silence was not just an absence of sound, it was a suffocating presence. People tried to scream, to sing, to shout, but not a peep. Their efforts were in vain, their voices stifled by an unseen force. The silence was relentless, an unyielding barrier that no one could break. The usually joyful Christmas carols were replaced by a haunting stillness. The festive decorations seemed almost mocking in their brightness, a stark contrast to the oppressive silence that enveloped the town. It was a Christmas devoid of joy, a celebration without sound. Whispers of an old legend began to surface. The townsfolk, desperate for answers, recalled the stories passed down through generations, tales of a curse, a vengeful spirit, and a wrong that had never been righted. Fear and superstition took hold as the legend of Eliza began to resurface. Decades ago, a scorned woman named Eliza was wrongfully accused of witchcraft and silenced forever. The townsfolk had turned against her, driven by fear and ignorance. Her cries for justice were ignored, and she was condemned to a fate worse than death, eternal silence. Her spirit vowed to return and quiet the town that betrayed her. The legend spoke of a night when Eliza's spirit would rise, silencing the voices of those who had wronged her. It was a tale of vengeance and retribution, a warning that had been forgotten over time. Desperate to break the silence, the townsfolk ventured to Eliza's old, abandoned house on the edge of Pinehurst. The house stood as a grim reminder of the past, its walls echoing with the memories of injustice. With trepidation they approached, hoping to find a way to lift the curse. The air grew colder, and shadows danced ominously as they approached. The house seemed to come alive with an eerie energy, as if Eliza's spirit was watching, waiting. The townsfolk could feel her presence, a chilling reminder of the wrongs that had been done. Inside, they found an ancient book with a chilling message. Only when the wrong is righted will the silence be lifted. The book, covered in dust and age, seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Its pages held the key to breaking the curse, but the path to redemption was fraught with danger. With trembling hands, they performed a ritual to appease Eliza's spirit. The room was filled with the flickering light of candles, casting long shadows on the walls. The townsfolk chanted the ancient words, their voices trembling with fear and hope. As the final words were uttered, a soft hum began to fill the air. It was a sound so faint yet so profound that it seemed to vibrate through the very fabric of the room. The silence began to lift, replaced by the gentle hum of life returning. Gradually, sounds returned, the creak of floorboards, the rustle of wind, a distant bell. Each sound was a small victory, a sign that the curse was breaking. The townsfolk listened in awe, their hearts lifting with each returning noise. By Christmas morning, Pinehurst was alive with sound once more. The town was filled with the joyous noise of celebration as people sang, laughed, and talked. The silence was gone, replaced by the vibrant sounds of life and festivity. But the town never forgot the lesson of that silent night. The memory of the silence and the legend of Eliza remained etched in their minds. It was a reminder of the power of justice and the consequences of wrongdoing, The ghost of Eliza would always be listening. Her presence, though unseen, was a constant reminder that the past could never be forgotten. The town of Pinehurst had learned its lesson, and the spirit of Eliza would ensure that it was never repeated.